foiled an overnight attempt to smuggle weapons into Israel from Egypt that used a drone. Troops reportedly located the drone after it crossed the border and downed it, revealing it had 2 assault rifles on board. Additionally, Israeli authorities have noted that attempts to transport weapons and drugs across the Egyptian border have increased over the past year. Meanwhile, in related developments, Israeli Defense Minister Katz has ordered the IDF to place physical markers along the so-called Yellow Line in Gaza, designating the boundaries of military control under the current ceasefire. The markers are intended to warn against violations, with the IDF recently targeting Palestinians who crossed the line, claiming they posed a threat to the troops. Meanwhile, the Yellow Line covers over half of the Gaza Strip, mostly outside urban areas, and many IDF posts are located closer to the Israeli border. Now, future phases of the ceasefire may involve further troop pullbacks. According to Katz's office, the markers are expected to resemble the blue barrels which are used alongside UN-recognized blue line between Israel and Lebanon. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Rohan Gunaratne, international affairs expert joining us from Singapore. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Some other very crucial developments coming in from the Middle East at this point. Israeli Defense Forces stating that they've foiled an attempt to smuggle weapons into Israel from Egypt that used a drone. What do you make of the fresh developments coming in?
Pia, what we are seeing is a constant attempt to move weapons from Egypt to Gaza, but this is not done by the Egyptian government. This is done by Hamas supporters and supporters of other terrorist groups that are operating in Gaza, because there are supporters and sympathizers of these groups in that region. And certainly in this case, Israel detected it. Even 2 weeks ago, there was a similar incursion where Israel detected, but there may be other weapons that are moving without such detection. So the transportation of weapons by drones is something that is happening constantly, and it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, Hamas and the other threat groups that are operating in Gaza will rearm and will continue the fight.
Indeed. And, there are more developments coming in at this moment. The US military has carried out a new strike against a suspected drug vessel in the Caribbean. As per reports, it is believed to be the first such case with survivors amongst the crew. Before Thursday's operation, US military strikes against suspected drug boats off Venezuela killed at least 27 people, raising alarms among some legal experts and democratic lawmakers who were questioned whether they adhere to the laws of the war. Still with us on the broadcast is Professor Gunaratne. Sir, what do you make of what's happening off the coast of Venezuela?
The U.S. Department of Defense, now known as the U.S. Department of War, has been constantly carrying out such operations to disrupt, according to the U.S., the flow of drugs on vessels from Venezuela to the United States. Of course, the relationship between Venezuela and the U.S. is very bad. President Trump just called the Venezuelan president illegitimate. So I believe that there must be restoration of relations between these two countries. As long as there is bad blood, there will be such conflict and confrontation.
And what do you make of recent statements that have been put out, in fact, reiterated numerous times by the Nicolas Maduro administration, that is not recognized by Washington, D.C. Maduro claims that the United States is trying to engineer a regime change. And in the meantime, Donald Trump has also come out and stated in the media that he's authorized the CIA to conduct some covert operations there as well.
You're correct, Pia. Both these things happened. Trump openly said that CIA has been authorized. It is very likely that there will be a regime change. Second is, of course, both these countries have hit rock bottom in terms of relations. So as long as there is a continuity of conflict, there will be such accusations traded by both parties. And of course, US will unilaterally conduct operations against vessels the US claims is carrying drugs. And I have no reason to doubt that there is movement of drugs across Venezuela and the US. What is important is for both these countries to work together.
Indeed, and so stay on with us. We're tracking some further updates. Venezuela has asked the United Nations Security Council to determine that deadly US strikes on vessels of its coast as illegal and issue a statement backing Venezuela's sovereignty. Now, in a letter to the 15-member Security Council, Venezuela's UN ambassador Samuel Moncada accused Washington of killing at least 27 people in the strikes on civilian vessels transiting international waters. However, the UNSC will be unable to take any action beyond holding meetings on the situation because the United States itself holds veto power. Listen in to what the Venezuelan ambassador had to say.
Yesterday, on October 14, 2025, the government of the United States of America carried out a new set of extrajudicial executions against civilians who were aboard a small stationary boat in the Caribbean Sea just a few miles off the coast of Venezuela. Recent reports of public domain have identified two humble fishermen from the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago among the victims. Their relatives indicate that those who were assassinated were engaged in fishing activities at the time. This act is yet another chapter in the escalation of the US strikes carried out since September to date against civilian vessels transiting